Big Mom and Kaido were indeed. Oh my fucking god, I sound like fucking shit. Fuck. What's poppin'? Back like we never left, B.D.A. And today I'm here to talk about One Piece chapter 934. And I thought this was a very good chapter. I gotta say that I enjoyed this chapter a lot. I feel like this is one of those chapters in which the continuity was there, where it went throughout the chapter. I did not feel like the tone was off. I felt like it was just perfect placement for each part of the chapter, but we'll get into it. In the first part of the chapter, we talk about Big Mom and all the kids are okay. Like for the longest, I've been asking, where are all the kids? Are they okay? Are they looking for Big Mom? And this chapter confirmed that they are indeed looking for Big Mom and they're worried about Big Mom. So apparently they have Vivre cards. You know, back then where the kids apparently weren't allowed to have Vivre cards, they have a Vivre card for Big Mom. One of my things was that for Big Mom, sometimes you have to protect her from herself. So of course they would have some Vivre cards there just to say, okay, in case something happens, we have a Vivre card on deck. So of course the oldest son is there. So Pedro, I would expect him to have a Vivre card. Katakuri, Strusen, those people to have Vivre cards to protect Big Mom, because Big Mom, again, she's a big child. You can lose her and you have to protect her from herself. So the kids, they're worried about her. And the conversation around the kids, that shit made me laugh, because it went from, okay, is Big Mom okay, to, okay, if Big Mom isn't okay, it's going to be the Perospero Pirates. That's what Perospero said, where he's going to be the next person to take over the Big Mom Pirates. And I thought that was hilarious, funny, and just wrong, because we all know if something were to happen to Big Mom, who would take over? But I thought the conversation was just hilarious with Perospero, Daifuku, and them. And the Smoothie even interrupted and said, how can you make that joke when we still don't know where Mama is? And she's not dead. Obviously, the Vivre card is intact. So that conversation, that dialogue between the kids was, I think that was good. But I always talk about that succession plan as far as like who would come next and how it would go about. I'm not sure if this is foreshadowing as far as Oda trying to show us and say, hey, these are hints towards what may come in the future and who's next up for the Big Mom Pirates. Because honestly, with Katakuri, I don't think Katakuri is strong enough yet to be a Yonko. But in One Piece, as you go along, a rise and change in status and position, strength normally comes with it. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened to Katakuri. This chapter also confirmed that Big Mom and Kaido were on the same crew, and in chapter 907 they talked about it, and they talked about possibly them being on rocks. Hina talked about it, but this blatantly said that, hey, they were on the same crew, but Kaido would now take her out because they're both emperors, and that's when it went into conversation about the Perospero Pirates. The thing is with the Big Mom Pirates and the Kaido and Big Mom thing, it could go either way, where Kaido and Big Mom, they could clash, right? Or they could be where Kaido fulfills this promise or whatever he has for Big Mom. It could go that way. I think right now, how it's shaping up, it Kaido wants to take her out, right? Because if you take her out, you don't have to fulfill this promise or this debt. Kaido seems to be a man that would want to pay his debts. Of course, when he's drunk, you never know, but he seems like that type of guy. So I expect him to pay his debt here in Wano. So him and Big Mom teaming up, that's not unlikely. Honestly, it's not that far-fetched. The Curry squad with O-Tama and Big Mom, Chopper, Momonosuke, Kiku, I'm intrigued because, of course, they have Big Mom with them. And Big Mom, her design, I'm messing with her design. But this thing and everything that's transpiring with Big Mom, I'm very intrigued because right now, we don't know what's going to happen. We know what Big Mom can do. We know the effects of her being hungry and where it could lead to. Time and time again in this chapter, Oda's referencing and talking about Big Mom and food. She talks about, oh, they didn't have food to give to me. Oh, Udon is far away. Oh, are we going to have food by then? So Oda is throwing different things in there to say food is going to be a problem if it isn't already. So for Big Mom and just how much we know she cares about food, right now, I think the best thing is for the Straw Hats and everybody there to get away from Big Mom, because even Big Mom's like, oh man, I don't know where I am. I don't even know who I am, right? And she's still not sure where she is. And of course, Napoleon, he hasn't said anything either, so he's still out of it. I think, honestly, once Napoleon wakes up, he has to be the trigger. He has to be the one that says, Big Mom, what are you doing? Because she doesn't know her name. They're calling her O-lin. Typically with amnesia or things like that, losing your memory, they have like triggers and different things to bring your memory back. So say Napoleon, he's holding some memories, because we saw that with Pudding, at least when she used her memory, whatever, the homies had memories of when they were alive. So I would assume, because they're homies made from Big Mom, say something like that, say Pudding uses that. Pudding isn't here, obviously. Or a trigger would bring some of those memories back for Big Mom. So Napoleon is the key here. So they probably don't want to be around Big Mom, but they're around her, and they're heading to Udon, which is going to make for some interesting shit, especially based on what happened at the end of the chapter. Another fantastic thing about what happened with the Kuri crew is that we got a map. We finally got a map with everyone, and with this map, it gives us a clear view of Wano and where we're going to have to get to. I think we got this Dressrosa map around the same time when we got where things were in Dressrosa, or actually pretty late, a bit later. And that gave us some indication, because when they would say, okay, we have to get here, we had a clear map to say, all right, it's going to take a while to get here from here. It made more sense, because when we talked about Greenbid, we talked about the capital, everything made more sense. And it did this here, where they gave us Mount Fuji, which was cool to see. They gave us, obviously, Udon, Kuri. They gave us all that, and it painted the picture. So Wano is shaping up. For a while, I'm not sure where we are. I'm not sure how far things are from X. Now we know. Based on where Zoro is, where Sanji is, where Luffy and those guys are, is going to give us more context when they say they're going from A to Z. Of course, Zoro was mentioned in the chapter, and it's in regards to Momonosuke and the mannerisms of what he was saying as far as snatching. And Okiku said, that's not something you should be saying, which I'm thinking that's indicating that he's a noble, and he probably shouldn't be saying that stuff. But the thing is, it's traced back to old Kuri dialect, which is like, why is Zoro saying this? There's a few things. That Zoro could be either his past, in which he knows about the Kuri language, but he's not sure exactly what it is. I hearken it back to him and Koshiro. Maybe he learned it from Koshiro, and of course Koshiro, we're not sure as far as like where he was born, so he could have ties to Wano. But as far as that, it could just be simply, Momo, you're a noble. That's things like savages say, or people that's not looked well upon. So Zoro, I think we would liken him to a savage, and somebody that's not looked well upon, because when people first see Zoro, they see this like intimidating guy. They're like, yo, why aren't you the captain? The pressure you give off, it's intense. And even how Momo viewed Zoro, it was somewhat intimidating. It's like the aura of a Ronin. And that's the aura Zoro gives off. So I think that's how Momo sees Zoro. People talked about it could have ties to Ryuma. Who knows where that goes, because Ryuma was somewhat of a noble. So we gotta wait and see where this goes. It could be simple, or it could be really complex, and Oda could tie it in really brilliantly, and I think he is. I think that's the route he's gonna go, as far as tying in Zoro, tying in Momo, and just the heritage and lineage. We then get back to the castle crew, and they talk about everything that's transpired, and apparently they dropped off Otoko in the Pleasure District. And the questions they asked, I thought they would ask that before dropping her off. Like, he wouldn't go after a child, would he? That's something you ask before the fact. You don't ask that after, saying he probably wouldn't go after a child. Like, ask that beforehand. Well, whatever. The tone kind of shifted here a little bit, because they started talking about, things they would like to do. Like Nami say, oh, I want to take a bath. But then they said, Orochi controls everything, so we can't do anything. We got to keep moving. We got to stay kind of out of sight, out of mind. The part that kind of was illuminating and gave us some more information was Robin. Now, Robin was kind of downplaying, say, man, I didn't get a lot from Orochi and being there. And then she rattled off a bunch of things that she got. The time Kaido would go, and then Kaido's favorite food, and Orochi's weapons. She got a lot of stuff from being there. It was like, that's typical Robin. Robin is great at this. We know she was on the crocodile for a while. Of course, she was kind of using him. So for Robin and just being an espionage, I think she's pretty good at that. Like, being a spy, she's good at that. And we saw a bit of the interaction with her and Orochi, and how she was kind of getting things out of him by just coaxing him and being, oh, Orochi-sama. Like, she can do that very well. It's just interesting that when she went to Dragon, she didn't use that. She didn't bring back much information. Like, she got a lot of information, but she didn't bring it back to the Straw Hat. They also talk about poneglyphs, and apparently the road poneglyph, as we expect, would be in Onigashima, but this poneglyph is somehow in the basement, but it was behind a solid door, and it had some random dolls in there. So that's probably somebody's devil fruit power that's protecting that poneglyph. We're gonna read and gonna get some information from, but Oda, obviously, he's gonna tie in the poneglyph to Robin's storyline, so we're getting that tie-in, so that was cool. Essentially, with everything that's going on with Robin, she took care of the Orochi espionage, as far as like infiltrating there and getting information. So now the focus is back to her and her true purpose, the poneglyphs, right? So For Robin, I think her and Brooke are probably going to be together as far as like working to get the poneglyphs, because I think they work well together as far as their abilities. So that would be their goal. So I think when we get to Onigashima, or when it's time to go to Onigashima, we're going to get new goals and new missions. Jump then again, and we get some more information. Apparently Sanji beat Page 1, or he escaped from Page 1, but the initial plan was to defeat Page 1 because he wants to take down their enemies. So Sanji beat Page 1. That's my conclusion. He beat Page 1. But for right now, he's upset because the rumor is that Kurosaki has died, and there's going to be a funeral and all this stuff. I don't think so. I don't think Kiyoshiro killed Kurosaki. There'll be no reason to do that other than to gain the favor of Orochi, but he can do that and somehow stow her away. Because I think Kiyoshiro feels that something is coming, right? But the thing is, if you do that, there's no coming back from that. But then again, if she comes back and Orochi thinks she's a ghost, he's terrified of it. It could go anyway with that. But with Kiyoshiro, his motives are just so up in the air. I'm not sure what he wants. Like, he seemingly has everything he wants, right? He has power, he has control over whatever. But for him to cut down Kurosaki, why did you do it? And obviously, that's not what Orochi wanted. Why did you do it? And we know that you raised her, you have ties with her, you have feelings for her in some manner. But you cut her down. And if she's dead, if she's really dead, I wouldn't like that at all. It's very underwhelming. We do not think she's dead. I think she's just... he's hiding her, or in some way they're going to find a way to introduce her back into the story. But Kiyoshiro really interested in what the purpose was for cutting her down. They also reference being interested in what's going on with Luffy. Sanji did. And again, that whole transition and that whole moment is funny because Sanji has the raid suit. We know one of the attributes of the raid suit is to be invisible. So he kept mentioning a woman's bath. However, they're talking about what happened to Luffy, and they said there's nothing here about Luffy, but there's something about Kid. Apparently Kid has escaped Udon, and he's out, he's free, but he still has a sea stone cup. So as far as Kid, I think for him, I expected him to do his own thing. I expected him and Luffy to escape together, but for him escaping by himself, it goes with the territory as far as what we know Kid to be and how Oda has characterized Kid. So Kid is the captain that's on the same tier as Luffy as far as being steadfast and having Congress hockey. So for him to escape without Luffy makes sense. And of course, one of the things that was foreshadowed, talked to Fruit about that. Fruit mentioned it at least when Caribou asked Luffy, hey, I want to escape. And Luffy was like, go talk to him. But then Caribou was trying to kind of rattling off like all the L's that Kid took. And Kid was like, no. Those are misconceptions. Let me clear it up for you. So think off of that, Caribou was like, oh shit, nigga, you solid then. Let's go. And then the Caribou and them, they worked together. They got out of there. So now Kid isn't in Udon anymore. We see that Luffy is still in Udon. Before we get to Udon, Kid isn't there. Before we get to everything that went down in Udon, this isn't really a problem, but as far as like the Straw Hats and their belief in Luffy, sometimes it seems just so over the top because it's like Luffy is in a prison. We heard, like, you had this face when you saw him in the newspaper, everything that happened to him. But now you're just like, oh, Luffy's probably just there. He can escape when he wants to. It's just like, you would like to see more concern. Of course, Law is concerned because that's the type of character that Law is. Sanji's concerned, right? Frankie and Usopp is kind of like, he's just probably there, just having a good time. And it's like, of course, Sanji, he's concerned, but he's still fucking around with the bathhouse and shit like that, where I would like to see more concern for Luffy, because I know you think he's strong, but he got annihilated by Kaido. So more concern would be nice, please. We meet one of the strongest characters, Alpaca Man. And Alpaca Man, he's drilling Luffy about information with Kid and what happened to Kid. He's like, he talked to you the most. If you know anything, tell us now, because he's going to get captured again, bro. And when he comes back, he's going to die, obviously. So you should tell us everything you know. But Alpaca Man, he's spitting and shit. And again, these smile users have been very underwhelming. Like, they've been bad. Alpaca Man, Batman, Gazelle Man. We've had Lion Man. It's been a plethora of just shitty fruits and just shitty abilities. Hippo Man. It's just annoying, bro. Like, when are we going to see great smile users? Apparently, Sheep's Head, I believe he was a smile user. He was fine. Jin Rummy, I believe she was a smile user. She was fine. I don't know if it was confirmed there was smile users. I don't even remember. But when are we going to see good smile users? This reminds me of like Vice Admirals. We see in the Maynards and the Bastille. It's crazy like how we view Bastille now, because Bastille is one of those people that were at Marineford, one of those Vice Admirals that were hyped up with Doberman and all those guys. So Bastille isn't weak. He just ran into a buzzsaw that is Sabo. However, everything that's going on in Udon is really interesting because we find out about the former member of the Yakuza, Hyogoro the Flower, and that old man that Luffy's been helping. He's the member of the Yakuza, or he was the leader for 20 years ago, and now he's being bullied by this Jack lookalike and this mammoth form Jack lookalike. It's weird, but I think the guy has like spider legs. It's some weird shit going on here, but they're bullying him because they're like, how did you get so much Kibidango? What's going on with you? So they're forcing him to give it up or just to spit it out, and he's saying, no, Luffy did this for me, or whoever did this for me. I'm not just gonna like trample on like him and his gifts, right? So they're asking for him to give up a name, and of course, based on his lineage and his past, you knew then he wasn't gonna give up anything, and he was saying, yo, you know, I find fulfillment in just being a fucking solid guy, a solid bloke, pretty much. It was an amazing speech, though. He talked about how back then men like Luffy were plentiful in Wano, and now it's like they were defeated by the men that were there now. So Luffy reminded him of his past and people that he interacted with. So he was responding to Luffy's chivalry with his own chivalry. So it was a great moment for him. And of course, they were beating up on him, and here comes Luffy, but the guy said, yo, if you attack him, you're gonna lose your arm. So Luffy's like, I don't give a fuck, bro. Like, they're fucking with you. You my mans. They gone. So Luffy he just attacked those guys, and right outside Udon, pulling up is Queen. So let's set the stage. Big Mom is on the way to Udon. Kid is gone from Udon. Luffy just attacked somebody in Udon. Still has the handcuffs on, so him fighting Queen straight up, that's not possible. This X factor here is still the lurking legend, or who I presume to be the lurking legend, the person in that cage. Of course, that person could be anyone. Could be a few people, but it could be anyone. We don't know who this person is. And he could be the X factor as far as like combating Queen and maybe stopping Big Mom, whoever this person is. So, very good chapter. The chapter was really good. Touched on a bunch of different areas, a bunch of setup. I can't wait for the next chapter. Hopefully, we touch on the Luffy and Udon stuff. We could go to... That's the thing I care about the most now, so that's what I want. Hopefully, we get more of that. I really can't wait. Fantastic chapter. 8 out of 10. 8.5 out of 10. Let me know what your favorite part of the chapter was. Was it the Luffy stuff? Was it Kiku and them, Robin, Big Mom and the pirates there, or Big Mom and her pirates, the Big Mom pirates? Let me know your thoughts. Like the video, subscribe for more content like this. I appreciate everybody's support. Shout out to my patrons. Love you guys. Thank you so much. I'll catch you guys later.